Chris.
Good. Maybe the chicken place across the street.
No, it's new. I know the one you're talking about. Right next to Voice Box karaoke place.
Yep.
Pretty good.
It is.
There used to be a curry place there before COVID. It was awesome. Kind of like Chipotle set up curry.
Interesting.
Yeah, I think they for COVID. Yeah, this is. I want to move the table. Oh, I can. There's two things to do. Move the table. Raise the camera. Which works too. It's funny that you mentioned about food. The guy that's interested in joining here in Green Spaces asked about eating during a meeting. I never had that question. We don't really eat during our meetings. I'm not sure if that's a guideline we need to put in.
So at my previous club, we met at a restaurant. And everybody just ordered dinner right at the beginning of the meeting and just ate whenever showed up.
Okay, so you thought it was fine to eat.
The guideline was just try not to be distracting.
Yeah. I'm fine. We just never had people eat during our meetings, so I thought maybe we just don't allow it, but I'm okay with, like, if people want it, I just don't want it to be distracting, but
Yeah.
at
the same time, our meetings kind of during lunch hour.
yeah, so I'm not surprised if people ask, like, can I eat? Why is the Zoom not going over? It's like, it's weird. I can't drag it to my computer.
Right?
No, it's still left edge. Oh, you're so right. Dang it, Eric. That's why I have to keep you around. Appreciate it. Oh. What happened here? Why am I losing?
Good sandwich, but it was messy. So it would be messy.
There we go. Okay, so we got that. We got Tim. Tim's joining in. Oh, so I have this other one around. I need to put this over here. How do I disable my notifications during the meeting? You want me to do that?
Do not disturb.
Yeah, maybe I'll do that. 1 hour. Okay, cool. So up here. Hi, Tim.
Hey guys.
Speaker signs. I can't hear him. Camera. Mute your speaker, or I'll go against our fan. Where is?
How are things downtown?
Oh, cool. We can hear you. Awesome. I can hear you now. Can you hear me? Okay.
Yep,
Sweet.
it's a little echoey, but it's not bad.
Okay. Sweet. We're doing good. It's a little warm here. We don't have the best AC at this place. But we're gonna tough it out. Here, let me go see if I can get here.
Is it a warehouse situation or is it?
It's kind of like an industrial building that they just built walls in, made this workspace area.
Huh.
And it's kind of-
Concrete floors, I assume?
Was that?
Concrete floors?
Yes, concrete floors.
Yeah.
Oh, there's a fan right here, but it seems like more like a heater. Oh, okay. We have too much power right now. Okay. Hi, Haley.
Hi.
Okay.
iPad is having trouble, so my phone's
Running Zoom.
on. It's getting the schedule.
Oh, okay. You got the password right for Great Spaces?
I just got it to my phone.
Screen number. Oh, I was gonna use this as the microphone instead. See if that works out better. Too many gadgets. Oh. Guess we should get going.
Yeah. Get the agenda pulled up here.
Okay.
Is it Just us today?
I would say so. See how that works. Oh,
Headless.
I'll get your head in. Hold on. We're gonna work on this. Okay, you can see here now. And there, it's just you, not me. Wait, let's. Sorry guys for the technical difficulties. Figuring this out. Here, why don't I move this table? Ready? 1, 2, 3. Sweet.
So much better.
Can you guys hear Eric okay?
Can you guys hear me? Awesome. All right. Well, welcome to Toastmasters this fine Wednesday afternoon. Today is our awesome table topics day. I know everybody loves these. I am your Toastmaster today. I'm your Boring. We're going to start off real quick with our joke and inspiration. And it looks like Nick has our joke.
Do. Thank you, Toastmaster. Today's joke, let me pull it up. I have it saved. It is, I didn't memorize it, I apologize.
It's all good.
Here it is. Oh, somebody is at the door to let them in. So the joke for today is, let me multitasking. Here's the joke. Why did the banana go to the doctor? It wasn't peeling well. Nice. Thank you, Toastmaster.
All right. Thank you, Nick, for our joke of the day. That was great.
Nick, I gotta say, our participation has ebbed a little bit since the joke was introduced here. I just want to note that.
It's a small sample size, you know that.
Okay, it's one of those metrics that maybe we should be tracking here, but I don't know.
It's not statistically significant yet.
Okay. It's not statistical. Yeah, I'll take that.
Okay.
All right. So our theme for today's meeting is garbage, specifically mental garbage. Mental garbage is anything that clogs up our thought processes, such as worries, any negativity that might be on our minds, just anything that occupies our brain that makes us less productive or less effective in our daily life. So for today, I'd like to ask everybody for a tweet question. Just give us real quick one thing that has been mental garbage for you lately. And I'll go ahead and start. For me, it's been that my team at work is a little bit behind on projects, and we're just scrambling to try and get caught up, and it's just not fun. So that's my mental garbage. Nick, would you like to go next?
Mental garbage for me is any task I have to do that stays in my mind, and I can release that garbage by writing it down in my planner. So when I can release things onto a piece of paper, it frees up my mind so I can focus on it in other places. But knowing that that garbage that was in my head is in a spot that I can refer back to. So that's kind of my take on the mental garbage.
Very nice, thank you. All right, Tim, what's the mental garbage for you lately?
I have a lot of mental garbage by your definition. But if I had to pick one thing, I would say it is low self-esteem is something that plagues me a lot. And it is a real limiting factor in a lot of areas of my life.
Makes sense. Thank you for sharing.
It makes sense that I would have low self-esteem. I'm not sure.
It's garbage, that's mental garbage.
Oh, I was gonna say, I don't know what I'm giving off. That would make sense, but okay. Thank you.
Haley, do you have some mental garbage you'd like to share with us?
Sure. I have anxiety, like generalized anxiety, and then I have social anxiety. So it always makes me worry a lot more than is necessary, and then waste time thinking about something that happened after the fact. And so that's my mental garbage. It's a lot of garbage.
I understand. That happens to me sometimes too. Thank you for sharing. All right. And it looks like we have a guest today. Is Saad? Did I pronounce that right? Are you there?
You're on mute.
All right, that's okay. We'll come back. All right. So thank you everybody for sharing your tweet responses. Let's go ahead and move on to our role introductions today. For our awe counter, we had Amy scheduled. She unfortunately was unable to make it today. Do we have anyone who would like to take on the role of awe counter? Tim?
Sure.
Right. So Tim will be our awe counter for today. We also have grammarian and word of the day. Looks like that was scheduled to be Ian, and Ian is not with us today. Somebody wants to volunteer to be our grammarian for today.
Haley, would you like to do it?
I've never had a role before.
Grammarian is super easy. All you have to do is listen for people that use interesting or strange turns of phrase.
Oh, okay.
If somebody says that stands out to you, you write that down, and then at the end, you just tell us that it was interesting.
Okay.
Super easy. All right. Is that all right if we put you into that role for today?
Yeah.
Thank
Sounds
you.
good.
Okay, and then for our timer and vote counter for today, we had Kevin scheduled. He is not here today. So Nick is volunteering, so he will go ahead and do our timing for today. Thank you, Nick.
Kim, you want to have everybody introduce the roles?
Oh, yes, I forgot to introduce the roles, my bad. Tim, could you give us just a quick rundown of what the awe counter does?
Sure. I am going to be our awe counter today, and I'm going to be listening for crutch words. I'm also going to be listening for the odd sounds that all of us might make. And I will also be looking for other verbal tics like double clutches. And at the end of the meeting, I'll give a brief report about what I heard.
Perfect. Thank you.
Can I ask a question?
Of course.
Sure.
What is a double clutch?
A double clutch is something that I do frequently. So if you listen to me, you'll hear me do it. And it's when I start and then stop and then start again. So it would be like
You did it right there.
I just did it right
Okay.
there. Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, it would be saying like, and then probably followed by an or an ah or something like that as I'm thinking.
Okay.
I just did it again. Now that I'm paying attention to it, you'll hear me do it a lot. But yeah, it's a way of filling space and creating sound just to fill time when you don't quite know what to say, like right this minute.
Okay, thank you.
That was all impromptu. That was on purpose. Okay, I just want you all to know that.
Demonstration.
Demonstration. That was yeah, exactly. It was demonstration purpose only, right there.
Fantastic. Thank you, Tim. All right. And Nick, would you introduce the timer roll for us, please?
Sure. Thank you, Toastmaster. As timer, I will be keeping track of everybody's times. Not sure who I'm just looking at right now. And for doing table topics, that's 1 to 2 minutes. At 1 minute, I will be giving a yellow background. I mean, sorry, a green background. And at like, not going to do it right now. Figure that out. It's interesting. Try and change the background right now on Zoom. It's not doing it for me. There it is. Green will be at 1 minute. Minute 30. Yellow and red will be at 2 minutes. And if you just keep on going over for a long period of time, I'll just start to clap you off. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Nick, for introducing that role. All right. Let's move into our fun meat and potatoes portion of our meeting here, the table topics today. Right. So I am going to be entirely honest that I forgot my questions for today. It was I had a long night last night and forgot to make my questions. So I hope everybody else came prepared. I will put some together while other people are speaking. We have somebody who would like to volunteer to go first as our table topics master.
I have questions I can start off with.
Awesome. All right, let's have Nick come on up here. Thank you, Nick.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Toastmaster. If you guys don't have questions ready, I would maybe start to work on those as other people are answering my questions. And I have these prompt to statements, and I'm going to create a scene for you, and then you're going to have 1 to 2 minutes of going with that scene. So it's kind of improv. Tim, I'm going to have you start off.
Wonderful.
All right. So Tim, you have to teach someone how to train a dog. What advice do you give them?
Just to clarify, what device or what advice?
Advice.
Okay. And I have to, and I'm sorry, just another clarifying question. So when you say impromptu, you want me to act this out, or you want me just to explain?
Either way, like, just imagine you're in front of someone right now, telling them how to train a dog, and you have up to 2 minutes to kind of give them a quick explanation on how to do that.
Okay. Well, Nick, thank you for the question. It's actually interesting that you would ask that question of me today, because not even an hour ago, I was at the vet for the annual physical for our youngest dog. And our youngest dog, who I may have introduced to you all before, he's not in the room right here, so I can't physically introduce him to you before, but if you haven't met him, his name is Kingsley. Kingsley is now 14 months old. And we got him in the midst of the COVID experience, like a lot of other people, because we have 2 other dogs. One of our dogs we thought was going to die, and we wanted to make sure that the other dog had a companion, and we wanted a smooth transition. And turns out the older dog hasn't died, thankfully, and he's still with us, but we have Kingsley, and we now have a pack of 3 dogs. And we were sort of hoping that there would be this great knowledge transfer that would take place to Kingsley to help him learn sort of the ropes. And there has really been no knowledge transfer. And Kingsley is right now perhaps the naughtiest dog that I've ever had in my life. He is sort of kind of housebroken. He is sort of kind of aware of his name. He is sort of kind of aware of his body, but he regularly makes what I would call egregious errors of judgment in terms of where his body is in space, what he thinks is his role in the pack, where he thinks it's appropriate to go to the bathroom. And overall discipline and obedience has really been a struggle. But if I had to give one bit of advice out of this maelstrom of bad behavior that I've been experiencing is to believe that every dog is its own dog, and to treat dogs as individuals, and to learn a little bit about them individually and their situations. So that's probably the one bit of broad advice that I would give regarding obedience to everybody.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Great job. Tim, if you want to put down in your notes, I counted double clutch is, and then 2 ands. Right.
Thank you.
Welcome. Haley, I have a question for you.
Sure.
I assume you know how to drive a car, right?
Yes.
All right. So kind of like Tim, you have someone ask you for advice on how to learn how to drive. What's some quick tips or advice you can give to someone that's learning how to drive?
Okay. Thank you for the question. I would say that when you're learning how to drive, you should start slowly and in isolated places, like a parking lot or a road that's in the middle of nowhere, and then move your way up. When I was learning how to drive, I lived in the suburbs of Denver, and I remember we went out to the east side of Aurora, and that's the area where it was easiest and where my dad was the most patient with me. And when we eventually started going to busier streets, that's where it was easier to make mistakes or not know what to do, have less control when there are a lot of other cars around, especially on the interstate. So I would say start easy and slow and then work your way up to the interstate. But it's essential to learn how to merge and drive in rush hour and parallel park. And I would also say that you should have more than one teacher because they might have different personalities and one might be more patient than another. I'm done.
All right, awesome. Great job.
Thank you.
Great job. There's no wrong answers here.
Okay.
Not looking for like the perfect answer. It's just the ability to come up on the fly with an answer, present that well, try not to use a lot of crutch words.
Well, I learned last time that I use and as a crutch word, which I didn't realize was a crutch word, and then I noticed myself doing it. So thank you, Tim, for pointing that out last time. I know I did it again.
Yeah, there were 5 that I heard there, but I would just say the context in which you seem to do it is right. So that's a double clutch. You're stringing together thoughts, and you could just as easily just sort of stop and pause and allow your brain to sort of formulate the next thought, because your pauses are not. I mean, I personally don't find them noticeable. I don't know about Nick and Eric, but I think and as I think back to a lot of the skills that I've tried to learn, and I've seen in other speakers who are far better than I am, that using pauses is a real good skill to work on in this environment.
Yeah.
I agree. Once you can start realizing you're doing it and you can hear your thoughts about to say it and just stop yourself, that's progression. That's something I'm still working on, where I hear myself about to use and like, stop what you're doing, just pause. Fine, pauses are okay.
Yeah.
You know, we pauses are awkward. Like to get to the point of pausing and not using crutch words is awesome. It's gonna take time.
And initially, it's very, very noisy because you're going to get it. You're going to get all these inputs, and trying to calm yourself down and realize and prioritize what you're trying to do, which is ultimately communicate with us,
Yeah.
because we're the judges.
I was just gonna say, pausing is only awkward for ourselves. For other people, they honestly don't really notice it very much.
That's a very good point. Very good point.
Eric,
Yes.
question for you. Similar fashion. I assume you know how to ride a bike?
Yep.
Awesome.
I sure do.
Eric, I would love you to give me some advice on how to ride a bike. Top tips in 1 to 2 minutes.
Top tips for riding a bike.
Yeah.
All right. That's an awesome question. So the first thing to understand with riding a bike is that, well, I guess I could get real technical into like how gyroscopes work and how it keeps you balanced upright. But the thing to know is that your momentum is what keeps you upright. So once you get going, you're not going to fall over. You only fall over when you stop moving. So the key to riding a bike is to be able to get just a little bit of speed, not a whole lot, just a little bit, so that your bike will keep itself kind of upright. The second tip is you just got to go out there and do it. You're not going to learn to ride a bike by sitting on the couch, or staring at your bike. You have to get on the bike, and you have to be prepared to fall a couple times. Of course, if you're like me, you run into a bush a couple times, probably get a busted up lip. I actually ran into a fence when I was learning to ride a bike and had this fat lip for like a week. It was great. So I would say those are the top 2 tips. Just remember to get some momentum and go out there and do it. Thank you, Mr. Tabletop Master.
Good job, Eric. So we just made one loop. You want to switch off tabletop masters and I can come back later?
Sure. Yeah, let's do it.
Okay.
All right. Do we have a volunteer for who would like to go next for Tabletop Master? All right, Tim, thank you for volunteering. I know it's kind of weird asking for volunteers when there's only like 4 or 5 people around.
No, it's just fine. So, Eric, my first question is for you.
All right, let's do it.
What was your first impression of your partner?
What was that last word?
What was your first impression of your partner?
Your partner, right?
Your partner, yeah. Yes. Because I know you're in a relationship, and somebody asked this to me the other day, and I actually have there's a whole backstory, and I just was curious about you.
Okay, so my partner isn't like my wife.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Gotcha. Okay. My first impression. So I guess I have to tell you a little bit of background about how I met my wife. I used to be a martial arts instructor, as you guys know. And next to my dojo, there was a FedEx office. And that's where I would go to get all of my stuff printed, like my flyers, business cards, and advertisements and all that stuff. And my wife worked at that FedEx office. I mean, she wasn't my wife at the time, obviously, but she worked there at that FedEx office. And so every time I would go in to get stuff printed, she was there. And I just remember the first time I saw her, or the first time I really noticed her, I guess, she had her hair done really pretty. And I was waiting for her to like open the file and send it to the printer. And I looked at her and I was like, wow, your hair is gorgeous. And she looked at me. I don't think I realized I said it out loud. She looked at me, she was like, oh, thank you. She got all kind of embarrassed. You know, she's really introverted, so she blushed. And she told me that it took her an hour to do that morning. And I told her, oh, wow, it's gorgeous. It was definitely worth the hour to do it. And that just kind of brightened her day. Like I could see it on her face. It brightened up her day. And from then on, she had the biggest smile on her face every time I went over to get stuff printed out. And right away, I wasn't really thinking about asking her out, but one of her coworkers encouraged me to do it. So finally, after a few months, I asked her out. And then we started dating, and eventually we got married, and that's how we ended up together. So my first impression of her was, of course, I thought that she was gorgeous, absolutely. But I noticed that she just had the most adorable personality as I was interacting with her. And she would laugh at my corny, cheesy jokes, even when nobody else would. It was great. All right. Thanks, Tim.
Thank you, Eric. Okay, Haley or Nick, either one of you want to go next? I'm going to pick somebody.
I'll go. Haley, you're going to be next then.
All right. Nick, where do you stand? Oh, go ahead. You stand behind the podium. Given your recent event regarding CBD, what is your overall stand on marijuana legalization in Colorado?
Tim, I'm so glad you asked me about my stance on marijuana in Colorado. And I believe that it should be legal, and as it is, I think it's not a crime as we've had it in the past to have, where other parts of the country, it's a crime to have it on you. And I think that's a shame because it's not as bad. Like we made this as a horrible drug early in the 1940s, 30s, 50s, and said it was a bad thing and people should be locked up for it, where it has a lot of great health benefits, helping people with cancer and other health issues. And I love this part of it, that it's being more embraced and people are realizing that the decisions you made in the past weren't correct, but we're willing to change for the future and making things better. And from it, it's adding the taxes from it are helping with building roads, helping with schools, other funding that the city and the state can use as well to grow and develop. But I think it's a win-win for both people getting the health benefits from it, and also the city and the society getting the financial benefits from it as well. And cities and states around the country are starting to notice that and change their ways to. Thank you.
Thank you, Nick. Haley,
Yes.
what is your greatest weakness?
I feel like I'm in a job interview.
It is a job interview question that I stumble with all the time. And again, this is a great environment to practice.
Thank you for asking. I would say my job interview answer to this question is one of my greatest weaknesses is perfectionism, and that that corresponds with my anxiety, but I wouldn't say that in the interview. But I try really hard to make sure I do a good job and complete my work on time and do it right. And I don't want to make any mistakes. So if I make a mistake, I make sure it doesn't happen again. And I sometimes am afraid to try new things because I avoid making mistakes. I don't want to mess up. So perfectionism in that way is one of my greatest weaknesses. I would say another one would be fear. And that relates a little bit to trying new things, and perfectionism would be fear of mistakes, but it'd be a fear of embarrassment, a fear of rejection, a fear of hurting myself, a fear of getting sick. And that can hold me back from experiencing all that life has to offer. So in that way, I think that fear is another weakness. Thank you.
Hired. Mr. Toastmaster, would you like me to continue, or are we going to pass the whip on to somebody else here?
Let's pass the torch for now, and then we can come back if we have some extra time. So thank you for those awesome questions, Tim. Appreciate it. All right. Haley, do you have some questions prepared for today?
I came up with a couple so far. I'll try to, I don't know if I have three. I have two.
Okay, that works. Do you want to do them now, or do you want to have some extra time to come up with another one?
It doesn't matter to me if someone else has three.
Okay. I guess let's go ahead and do it then.
Okay. So I'll ask, does anyone want to volunteer?
Sure, I can go first.
Okay. What is one thing in your life that you regret throwing away? So this is on the theme of the garbage, not related to mental garbage necessarily, but what is one thing in your life that you regret throwing away?
Ooh, one thing I regret throwing away. Oh man,
Great question.
that is a tough question to answer. The challenge is picking just one thing. Oh boy.
Nick and Eric, you guys are frozen.
We're still frozen?
Nope, you're good now.
Okay, cool. So one thing that I regret throwing away, I guess it would have to be some old friendships. You know, I have friends from high school that I used to be extremely good friends with. We would go and hang out every day after school. We had a lot of very similar interests. And unfortunately, we just kind of drifted apart over the years after high school, and I rarely talk to those guys anymore. And I miss it. I honestly miss just hanging out with those guys and all the things that we had in common. We went a lot of different directions in our lives. They're still over in Salt Lake City, Utah, so it's even more difficult now. But I do wish that I had stayed in touch with them more. I'd say a social aspect, some old friends. Thank you.
Thank you. It's a good answer.
Did you have another question?
Yes.
Okay.
Nick, okay. So it's the opposite of that question, and on the theme of garbage, what is one thing in your life that you wish you could throw away that you haven't been able to? You keep coming back to it. You think you should, but you can't do it.
I live a minimalist life. I try to. I hold on to something, I don't use it for like a year, I get rid of it. Recently, I went through old photo albums and had them all digitized and getting rid of those. In terms of something I still currently have that I want to throw away. I have a lot of hats. For a while, I went on this theme of getting a lot of these like flat brim hats, and that was cool. Collected, I got a whole like 10 plus hats, and now they're just in my drawer sitting there. I'm at the point like I just need to not throw them away, I'll sell them or give them away for free. But if I'm not going to use them, I'd rather give them away to someone that can put it to use, which is just sitting in a drawer. So those hats are currently my garbage. Thank you.
All right. Okay, so that was all the questions that you had, right, Haley?
Yeah.
Awesome, thank you so much. Okay, so I will go ahead and ask the questions that I came up with now. These are keeping with today's theme in the meeting today. Do we have a volunteer to go first?
Tim.
Oh, sure.
Tim has been voluntold.
I noticed his name and the number of times he spoke, and I only got one so far, so it makes sense.
All right, Tim. When you get nervous or anxious, what is a way that you calm yourself down?
Can I ask a brief clarifying question?
Sure.
Does this have to be a productive way of calming myself down, or can this just be the fact that I'm a chronic nail biter? I touch my face, yeah, or are you looking for the effective tools that I use or the ineffective ones? Because I can go into great detail on both.
I'm looking for whatever it is that you actually do, whether you think it's effective or not. It's anything that you personally do that helps you.
Okay, so I've already tipped my hand on some of the ineffective things that I do, which include, as I said, biting my nails, biting my lip, touching my face, avoiding eye contact, using clutch words and double clutching. Those are all ways of coping with nervousness or anxiety that, for the most part, are not very effective. I'm not sure why I bite my nails when I get anxious, but I do. And why do I use filler words and double clutches? Probably because I can't stand silences. Why do I avoid people's gaze? I'm not sure. But some of the more effective tools that I've been working on, especially during COVID and when we've been doing a lot of these things by Zoom, have involved breath work and trying to control my breathing or just simply be aware of my breathing. I know that, like most people, when I get nervous or anxious, my breathing gets rather shallow, and I start relying on these other things to try to manage my nervousness and anxiety. So paying attention to my breath and where my breath is coming from is one of these things. Another thing that, again, especially during this COVID time, that I've been trying to use more of is regular exercise. And I've always been rather active, hyperactive, according to my wife and maybe some other people. So my activity was not really as regular, and it would be, I would go out for a 4-hour run, or I would go out for a 8-hour bike ride or something, just these stupid things, and then be destroyed for 3 days. I'm now trying to teach myself that it's okay just to run for 45 minutes, or it's okay to do a little bit of stretching and some breath work before I ride my bike for just 20 minutes, and trying to dial all those things back. So, Eric, thank you for the question. It's nervousness and anxiety or something, Haley, that I struggle with, and I think a lot of people do. And those are some of the things that some of the unproductive things and some of the more productive things that I'm trying to incorporate. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing, Tim. Right. Let's see here. This next question, I think I'm going to volunteer Haley for this one. Haley, what is one tip for reducing our intake of mental garbage? So like other people sometimes try to dump their garbage on us, or sometimes we pick up other garbage from circumstances. What's one way that we can avoid absorbing that into ourselves?
That is a good question. Thank you. I would say the primary way to avoid taking on external mental garbage is by setting boundaries. And that's knowing what are your problems and what are other people's problems. And what I like to call OPP, other people's problems, not my monkeys, not my circus. And I remind myself of that when someone is dumping or unloading something on me that I feel unable to take on, or that is crossing my own boundaries. And it can be hard to remind myself where the boundary lies. But with time and with practice, you can establish that and then reestablish that with the person, because it can be hard to set it in the first place, especially if the other person doesn't want to respect it. And then to have them try to fight it and have to do it all over again. And the boundary can change, especially as you are more able to take care of yourself. Maybe you can help other people more, take on more, and then you can adjust the boundary as you need to. But I would say that's the best way, is to just ask yourself, is it my problem? Can I take this on right now? Thank you.
Thank you for that wonderful answer. Appreciate it. All right, and Nick, finally, this question is for you. What is a way that we unintentionally dump garbage on others?
How do we unintentionally dump garbage on others? The first thing that comes to my mind is when people just complain and they're complaining, just dumping their garbage on others. They just want to release their problems, which I think is healthy. You shouldn't like bottle things up and not express how you feel to others. Unfortunately, that action is dump, depending how the other person takes it, like either another side you can just put up a wall and not take all of it, or you can have some empathy and try to understand, take some of their garbage as well. Question is, how do you avoid?
What is a way that we unintentionally dump garbage on others?
Another way we unintentionally dump garbage on others is the literal form of littering by mistake. We don't realize we, I don't know, I'm trying to really wing this here. You might think you're, recycling. But if you recycle something that can't be recycled, it gets thrown in the garbage. So you're by accident throwing things into the garbage in the landfill because you're not properly recycling something. So that's my other answer to that question. Thank you.
Awesome. All right, thank you, Nick, for that fantastic answer. Okay, let's see where we at here. I think we have just a couple of extra minutes here. Does anybody have another question or two? I think, Tim, did you say you had another question or two?
I do too.
Do.
Okay. Cool. So let's go ahead and let's do 2 questions. And then
Okay.
we'll call it for today. That should be good.
Okay. Haley, this one is especially for you. What is your go-to dance move, and can I see it?
No. This is a funny question because the first time I was a guest at Toastmasters about a month ago or so, Sue asked me the question in the table topics meeting, if I could eliminate all dance moves and keep only one, what would be the dance move? And I realized that I don't know a lot of dance moves. I know a lot of styles of dance. I don't know how to do them, but my answer was 2-step, which is a pretty boring answer. But I thought that you could do it to a lot of varieties of music. So that was my answer at the time. But my best dance move is more fun, I suppose. But I don't think I have a signature dance move anymore. I've been in retirement.
That is the best answer right there.
Because
I'm
of
in
COVID.
retirement and I don't have one anymore.
But I like the really cheesy ones, like the lawnmower, the grocery shopping. I like those. Because they welcome everyone to the dance floor. And they're fun, and you could do them literally while you're lawn mowing or at the grocery store. But when I was little, I used to really like the electric slide. I would say that.
And you're totally missing the second half of the question. Can we see it?
No.
No? All right, because you're officially in retirement. Okay.
Yes. Thank you.
Excellent. All right. Nick, Eric, do either one of you have a preference of who would like to go with this last question?
Should we go Shambo for it?
Go ahead, you take it. You're already standing up.
All right. Eric, this is very much along the same lines. What is your go-to karaoke song?
Tim, you assume that I do karaoke.
I thought that was one of the I thought that was the martial art. Was it no?
No. Tempo was my martial art. No, I don't do karaoke, and it's because, you know, when I sing, people's ears bleed. So, yeah, I don't. So I couldn't tell you what my go-to song would be. It would definitely be something rock, because I enjoy rock music, especially like punk rock and hard rock, which lends itself even worse to karaoke. Screaming into the microphones, probably not.
Yeah, the Cro-Mags don't translate well into karaoke, I find. Yeah.
Yep. So yeah, I mean, I don't do karaoke, and I don't have a go-to song because I don't do karaoke.
I think we have to end it there.
I have an answer. Backstreet Boys, I want it that way.
Nick, somehow I knew you would have one. That's why I'm so glad that that Eric took the lash on that one.
That should be my question. Oh, well.
Yep.
I'm sure there's a YouTube video somewhere.
Yeah.
Singing that.
Anyway,
All right, thank you, Tim, Mr. Table Topics Master. All right, let's move into our evaluations portion of the meeting here. Nick has sent out the poll for voting for best table topics.
stand by.
Or he's going to be sending that out, sorry. And while he is doing that, Tim, would you like to give us an counters report?
Sure. So I think today's award for cleanest speaking has to go to Nick. Nick, I really didn't hear you do any sort of ahs or filler words or double clutches or any of those types of things. I may have heard a couple of ands, but they were well within the bounds of being okay. Eric, I think you did fairly well. You relied somewhat heavily on the word so. I heard about 5, I think it was, that were sort of trying to bridge thoughts together or transition into thoughts. There were a few ums, a couple of ahs, and then one and that I thought was more than just connecting words together. Haley, as we spoke before, and is really the word that you need to keep an eye on or keep an ear on. I heard at least 10 over your answers. Was another word that you, or sound that you relied on pretty heavily. And just for the record, I thought your third question answer was your best. I don't know whether it's because you were really focusing on it, but by your third answer, you were doing a lot better than you were in the first and second. And I'm not sure if that was the question or just you focusing, but you showed improvement over the course of our time together today, which is certainly something as you go through the rest of your day, you can feel good about. So overall, it was very good. I'm sorry to say that I didn't count myself. I'm sure I would have won on all counts, but that's one of the great things about being the counter is that you can't really count yourself. Thank you.
Thank you, Tim. All right. Haley, do you have a grammarian's report for us?
Yes. Tim, I liked when you were talking about training your dog and you described it as the great knowledge transfer and learning the ropes and using the word egregious. And then Eric, I liked you only fall over when you stop. I think that's good advice in general for life. Nick, when you describe marijuana as a win-win for people and society, and then when taking on or when sharing your garbage with others, saying you might think you're recycling, recycling versus throwing it away. That was good. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. All right, and then finally we have our timers report and our votes.
So timer report, Tim, 226 over and 305 over. Haley, you did a great job. All yours were under 2 minutes, 130, 126, 145. Another one was like a minute and something. Eric, 130, 140, 215. Myself, 134, 109, 148. So great job, everybody. Who'd you vote for? Okay. Okay. Let me see if this can work. So for this week, the table topic master. Let me pull up, set up here. Why did the drum roll? All right. A drum roll, please, for the best table topic goes to everybody, four-way tie. They were so close, guys. Everybody just, the votes just spread out. That's why you need an odd number, right? That's what happens to get an even number. It can happen to a tie. So great job, everybody. And that's the vote report.
Fantastic. All right, thank you. Cool. So everybody, great job. Thanks for coming today. Do we have any club announcements to put out?
Quickly, Tim and Haley, is this hybrid working out okay? Is this enjoyable, annoying? Any feedback? It's okay? All right. I don't make this meeting worse because of this. If it's making it worse, I'd rather either just go back to Zoom then. But if this is adding value or not taking away from the meeting, then we'll continue to do this.
Yeah, but for the fact that I did have that veterinary appointment before, I was going to come down there today because I think I really, one, I'm curious about the space, and two, I just think being in front of people is really, really valuable. So hopefully next week I can arrange my schedule so I can be there in person.
Cool. Awesome. And I guess other announcements, just make sure you're looking at the schedule each week. If you can't make it, please communicate that with the Toastmaster. It's really important. Next week, I'm actually going to be in New Jersey, but I'll be on Zoom. I'm not sure if you want to have it here next week. I'll talk with Eric. We might just do all Zoom next week.
That'll be better for me as well.
Yeah.
Why don't we do that? Because I'm supposed to lead the meeting next week according to the schedule. So why don't we just say next weekend? Next week is going to be a Zoom meeting.
Okay, Zoom next week. Following week, we'll be back here again.
Okay, great.
Eric, anything else?
I don't think so.
All right, guys. Cool. Tim, Haley, any thoughts, comments, concerns? Good. Okay. Awesome.
Thank you, guys. Have a
Thank
great
you.
week. Stay cool.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye. Thanks, Haley.
See you later.
Any thoughts? Anyone?